Hey, my darlings. Right, here we go. Okay, then, if I must. This appears to be one of the warders we seek, but I'm afraid he is in no state to answer questions. still on display, and if I may be so vaunting, the warriors spun from your ether fought more splendid than I anticipated. I suppose they were cut from excellent cloth after all. We should wait until this man regains his senses. He wears the robe of a warder, and you'll be very curious to know what drove him to attack us, sight unseen. Elita, he stirs. What came over me? It's coming back to me. My mind was filled with a storm of desperation, anger. I leapt at you, though I knew not of your intentions. Pray accept my apologies and my thanks. Had you not knocked some sense back into me, I may have fallen upon someone less capable of defending themselves. I am Eryxios, a warder of Aspelados, Pandemonium's highest lair, and the place we are in now. One must wonder why you were so desperate to keep us out. What is happening in Pandemonium? The creations interred within Aspelados have been set free and stalk its halls, to no end but violence. That is not good, to say the least. Has this ever happened before? No, never. Each level of Pandemonium is under the charge of a key ward, who keeps strict control over the most minute aspects of their domain. They're selected with great care, and their loyalty to Master Lahabrea is absolute. Yet something has gone terribly wrong. Try as we might to hold the line, the chaos within is overwhelming. I hardly realized that I had become separated from my colleagues. I remember a chorus of whispers assailing my senses, and afterwards only flashes of rage and fury, then blackness, from which I awoke to find that whatever had overcome me was gone. I see. Your senses may have been muddled by magics that affect the mind, perhaps the self-same ones that saw you separated from other warders. Whatever had taken hold of me, thank you for releasing me from its clutches. That you have come here from the surface must mean some word of our plight has reached the outside world. If you know anything that may help, pray tell. Horror among horrors. So, Pandemonium's protections are indeed being dismantled from within. By the same individual or individuals, they released as captives and set them upon you, no doubt. Such knowledge avails us little. However, if we cannot ascertain their identity... Themis, was it? You said you worked for an organization under the auspices of the Convocation. Were they to receive word of what's transpired here, what measures would they take? Doubtless they would consider this place to be a lost cause. Pandemonium's ties to the outside world would be severed, or perhaps it would be wiped from existence entirely. As I thought, were the creatures to escape into the outside world, there would be untold damage. The words of Lahabrea would never risk that, despite what value the research subjects may hold. All the more reason for us to work with haste. If we can't expect further help, then it falls upon me to save the others. I'll not leave them behind. You would go alone? I won't leave the other warders to face certain doom. I know they fight for survival even now. They wouldn't abandon their duty. They would see the creatures return to their cells at all costs. And so I must do the same. Demas, I know the request I'm about to make of you is a monumental one, but please say not a word of this to the Convocation until I've been given the chance to set things right. Forgive my rudeness, Ericleos, but my decision cannot be swayed by emotion. You would only be consigning yourself to an early death. Strength of resolve alone cannot win in the face of overwhelming odds. That being said, our investigation has only just begun, and so we would be remiss to turn back ere we made an exhaustive supply. So, for the time being, there is slightly more resolve to rely upon. Heh, I knew you'd be all too eager to join us. Each moment since you fell from the skies has been more interesting than the last. More and more you remind me of my dear friend. Which goes some way towards encouraging me that this matter will reach a satisfactory conclusion. So, you agree to help? For the moment our goals align. The protective magics of Pandemonium yet hold, so for the moment time is in our favour. Let us proceed upon the course you and Elita have set upon us. Demas and Elita, yes? Thank you. The warders owe you a great debt already. We shall be glad to have someone familiar with Pandemonium's halls by our side. A party of three is ever so much more entertaining than a pair of two. Now, let us turn our attention to rescuing your colleagues. Perhaps it would be wise to approach the gates, in case any have followed you out. It seems our investigation will be quite the ordeal after all. I find it hard to believe that La Habrea knows not what transpired here. Whoever the mastermind of this crisis is, we do not lack the power of cunning. Arithmius is peering into the depths of Pandemonium. Not a sound can be heard from within, which means neither creature nor warder has made it this far. We should begin forming a plan to save them at once. Forgive me if I misunderstand, but do you mean to rescue the warders and creations both? Naturally, although they may be a bit dangerous. They're valuable research subjects. I wouldn't see our labour or untold hours of studies go to waste. I dare say La Habrea would smile to hear you say such a thing. That is, if we had cause to report this incident to him. Smile? I'm not sure his face is capable of such warmth. Ah, so you've met him before. I was under the impression he rarely visited Pandemonium. I have, yes. My mentor was the previous head of the facility, that is to say, La Habrea's predecessor, in the position of Chief Keyword. Her name was Athena, and she was a researcher with the words. It was she who appointed me to this position, in fact. I see. I did not know there was a Chief Keyword before La Habrea. Your motivation to save your research subject is not entirely driven by duty to the words, then. You wish also to preserve the work of your mentor. You've the right of it. I'm lacking in ideas right now of how to go about that. However, I'm a mere warder, and cannot wield intermittent magics. Ah, but of course, I can hardly expect you to be versed in the magics we use here. If you recall, during our battle earlier, I bound you in ethereal shackles. Intermittent is more of a refined and powerful magic, based upon the same principles. While both are used to keep our subjects docile, only the keyword of each tier is permitted to use the intermittent. Even if I were allowed, I lack the aptitude to use the spell of any notable effect. Fascinating. I have some knowledge of these forms of spellcraft. Actually, La Habrea himself established their foundation, if I recall. While shackles are meant to bind an object in place for a short time, intermittent freezes the space around it for as long as the caster wills. Indeed, while the illusory beings you summoned in our fight suggested as much, I see your knowledge of magic is vast. Perhaps you've already mastered the art of intermittent, and I've been lecturing you like a child this whole time. I am afraid my knowledge ends there. I have not the precise understanding of how the invocations will interact with the natural laws that would be needed to cast spells with such inconsistency. While I consider myself well versed in various magics, I would be ill-advised to assume the duties of keyword without instruction. That being said, if I were to learn more of intermittent and its inner workings, perhaps. Well, you have a warder standing in front of you. Well, the solution is obvious when you put it like that. Dorotheus, you implied that what prevented you from performing intermittent was lack of magical capacity. What if I supplemented your power with my own? Would the spell succeed then? I can't say for certain. I've never heard of such a thing being done. I believe it may be our best recourse. That is, of course, assuming you can perform the initial rites and incantations flawlessly. Even the smallest misstep and we would have to start over. You needn't worry about that. I've seen the spells cast so many times, but their motions have been burned into my memory. I won't disappoint. Very well. Let us work out the specifics afterwards. Once we do, we can test out our methods on one of the escaped creatures. Though I suppose there is the matter of finding one. It would be foolish to rush in blindly, lest we find ourselves surrounded with naught but an untested stratagem at our disposal. Nay, I would prefer to engage a single creature that Elita could dispatch on her own if the spell were to go away. I agree, and I may have an idea in that regard. I recall seeing the hippocampus wandering the waterways during my flight. Perhaps it's still there. Few of the subjects housed within the Asphodelis are fond of water, and I believe we'll be able to engage the beast without fear of unwanted guests. And that shall be our first target, or perhaps subject is a better term. Before that we commence with the intermittent magics, the creature should be weakened to a sufficient degree. I believe I can trust you on that task. As dependable as ever. Once you have given it a thorough trouncing, we shall bind this hippocampus with the keyword's magic. Until then, my illusions shall fight by your side. The hippocampus will be alone, but it is a daunting opponent nonetheless. Its magic warps the environment around it, and it will be at home amidst the waterways. Steel yourself for a fight. I take it we are each ready to fulfill our respective roles. Truth be told, this will be the first time I practice magic that requires such a degree of cooperation between parties. How thrilling. Athena ever drove home the fact that our subjects would be treated with the utmost care. It would be best if we see them confined once again, rather than disposed of like beasts gone feral. I guess you guys do that. did it. That was trial by fire, or water I suppose, but I had faith we would see it through. So long as we had your stout arm, of course. I knew that you were no mere mercenary, but to make such clean work of the hippocampus. Seasoned fighters scarcely have occasion to visit Pandemonium, let alone display their skills. Mastery takes all forms indeed. Needless to say, our plan worked to perfection, in no small part thanks to you two. Themis's power was more than enough to complete the intermittent. Spellcasting was never my strong suit, but that almost made me feel like a proper Magos. Truly, having seen your abilities firsthand in the fight with Elita, I beg to disagree. Shackles is the one exception, and it is only because I've been forced to practice it since I was a small child. Other magics leave me feeling completely out of my depth. Regardless, it seems luck is on my side. To guide me to you, we may prove the impossible possible after all. After witnessing the hippocampus's abilities, I should not blame you for wishing to avoid engaging any further creations in this place of their choosing. Alas, I doubt we will have the luxury. They seem easy enough. Themis is pondering the road ahead. While our success in sealing away the hippocampus is certainly heartening, the fact that we have yet to see any other warders concerns me. The keyword of Asphodels is nothing but if not cautious. Doubtless he has gathered what warders he could and retreated to a safe area. Let us hope so. It occurs to me that I know little of the keywords besides their magical prowess. Is there aught more you can share? Of course. A man named Hesperos is in charge of Asphodelos. Not only does he have thorough knowledge of the creatures here, but he takes great pains to be a mentor to each of the warders under his charge. He has done so much to ensure that I flourished here, in spite of my ineptitude at magic, and I've always known him to be the sort of man who faces difficult decisions with unwavering composure. Furthermore, keywords are not only masters of intermittent, they can also bend the hallways of Pandemonium to their will with creation magics. With all this in mind, I am certain that so long as Hesperos guides them, the other warders are safe. I can see why absolute control over the environment is imperative. Had we faced the hippocampus on arid sands instead of waterways, I suspect the battle would have ended much more quickly. In any case, if this Hesperos is capable of and caring, as you say, we would do well to seek him out as soon as we can. Has he, like us, not taken to your colleagues to a secure location? The safest place would be the innermost circle of Asphodelos. From there they could flee Abyssos if hard pressed. Even should they have sought safe haven within the other circles, we make further forth. We ought to encounter them on their way. Indeed, and we shall gain a comprehensive understanding of the situation within Asphodelos, which will be essential to determining whether we ought to continue down to Abyssos. The rub, of course, is that I possess no power to bend the circles to my will. Instead, we must proceed through the central corridor, which was barred by the Phoenix, last I checked. Phoenix. Phoenix. I have heard that name before. A fiery bird with life eternal. Beyond unquestionable brilliance, the perfective concept boasts nigh boundless restorative powers, if I recall, truly an exemplary feat of creation magics. Perfection is ever built on the back of failure, however, and La Habrea suffered countless missteps during his experiments. And he was hardly the only one. This Phoenix will be one of many attempts at the concept gone awry. Aye, far from evoking wonder, our Phoenix is a creature of fury and wrath, and seeks only to turn the world to ash. Thus it was confined within Pandemonium. Development of the concept continued elsewhere, but as the moons turned, more and more researchers abandoned the project as an impossibility, save for La Habrea and his words. When I received word that as long last La Habrea had succeeded where so many others had failed, I was nearly overcome. Pray tell, how did the Warders of Pandemonium create their master's accomplishment? I don't believe we did. The research of the wards of La Habrea has little consequence to our work here, save for those rare times it charges us with a new specimen. Truth be told, I don't remember anyone making note of the occasion. But enough reminiscing. We must make ready to confront the Phoenix. While it's possible that it flew off to some other wing of Pandemonium, we would make the assumption that at our own peril. Better to assume that we'll need to bring Asphodelos' most unruly subjects to heel. I certainly see no reason to delay. The Phoenix's power over flame will avail it far less in a barren corridor than elsewhere, so it may well serve us to subdue it sooner rather than later. Ooh, that's cool. I like that effect. Where you can just see out the window. Hello, Vampire Lord of Darkness. But what? It seems whoever is behind this can alter the space around us at will. We face an uphill battle. Impossible! If those were creation magics at work, then that means... Let us confront that reality after we've conquered the enemy in front of us. But every drop of our focus should be required if we're to enter the Phoenix. We shall gain naught from following the larger implications of this to distract us from the fight ahead. The Phoenix's rage will be unbridled, but I trust you are prepared for the worst. Fight well, friend. Phoenix. destroy the fire. collaborate. Oh, god damn it. Whew. With that, the Phoenix is shackled once more. However, it is a matter of this arena. As you've told us, there is but one person in Asphodelos with the ability and authority to wield such magics. Though fortunately it appears he has saved us the trouble of finding him. A contemptible display, as befits an inferior specimen. Even so, I expect I will at least delay your advance. Imagine my surprise when I saw the chains of intermittent drag the Phoenix back to its cage. Either the bird is even more the fail than its creators care to admit, or you are no mean trespassers. I had hoped our suspicions were misplaced, but alas. So cool. Keyword Hesperus. Why? Why have you brought such chaos to your beloved Pandemonium? Pandemonium? Pitiless, impenetrable, and utterly steadfast, unlike those charged with its keeping. What has possessed you? I don't understand. Oh, Erytheus, must you pester me with these inane questions? Think for yourself. Surely you can muster a theory or two with that dim wit of yours. Then again, you have never been one for insight. Why Master Lahabrea suffers your mediocrity, I shall never understand. You may look like him, but you're not Hesperos. I know. Something has warped you, too, from the inside out. The keyword I knew had compassion for all those under his charge, be they clad in robes or shackles and chains. Was that all a farce? Did you hide your contempt for us all those years? Those who are content to merely glimpse the water's surface are doomed to be dragged into its depths. You prove my opinion of you with every word. My mind is clearer than it has ever been. Even now, seeing you feebly grasp for answers makes the bile rise in my throat. Such wasted potential. To be son to Master Lahabrea, yet no more skilled with magic than a newborn babe. But of course, it's always about Lahabrea. Silence! You are not worthy to utter his name. For once, be grateful to witness a feat beyond your meager abilities, beyond your shallow reckoning. I have sipped the surly bonds of immortality. I have become one with our mythic creations, and rid myself of imperfections. I stand upon the threshold of godhood. As a Hiemethios, I shall serve Master Lahabrea, ever faithful, unto the end of days. And he shall require no other. I think not. Are you so blinded by arrogance that you have lost sight of what it means to serve? Erythios is more capable than you could ever know. It was thanks to his instruction that I was able to master the art of intermittent, both now to how to wield it and how to break free of it. Elita, let us quit this place. Whatever poison has corrupted Hesperos' mind, it is plain his power far eclipses our own. We must have time to gather our strength. Weaklings. Though they may be, it takes a singular aptitude to master intermittent so quickly, to say nothing of how swiftly that familiar laid low the Phoenix. Regardless, their noble aims will be their undoing. Where they fritter away their strength in calming the beasts of Asphalados, I continue my work. Even should they survive long enough to reach the heart of my domain, naught shall await them but doom. I eagerly await your arrival, Erythnios. Even dullards have their uses. My darkest suspicion has been realized. We face the keyword of Asphodelos himself. More than that revelation, however, Erykthinos worries me. He loved Hesperos for his compassion, but received naught but scorn from whatever the keyword has become. He has said little since our return. I only hope that the shock of recent events does not prove to be a death knell for his resolve. Themis would offer what comfort you can to Erinthios. Much as I am loath to disturb Erinthios so soon after what just occurred, I'm afraid circumstances do not afford us the luxury of time. Perhaps it will do him well to speak about recent events, concerning both the Key Ward and his father. He seemed reticent to say aught concerning La Habrea when the subject was broached. Doubtless his relationship with his father is a fraught one. The creation of the world which surrounds Pandemonium was an astounding feat of magical prowess, a feat accomplished by none other than La Habrea. That both my father and I can bind others in chains is perhaps the only thing that we have in common. Ah, so it is true. I am La Habrea's son, bereft of his talent for magics or his brilliant mind, but his son nonetheless. Surely this doesn't come entirely as a surprise to you? Nay, I had an inkling when you said you'd practiced ethereal shackles since childhood. Assuming you haven't been employed here quite that long, it had to indicate some long-held connection with La Habrea. 'Twas La Habrea that taught me how to cast ethereal shackles, but that was it. My further education was overseen by the words of La Habrea, more specifically my mother, who was a researcher there. Did you speak of Athena? Chief keyword before La Habrea. She is your mother, yes? How astute. I can see now why you were chosen to lead this investigation. You have the right of it. Athena was my mother, and it was she who invited me to join her here. La Habrea had nothing to do with it. I see there is little love lost between you two. What I cannot see is why La Habrea was appointed chief keyword when another was already in place. Was in place. My mother is no longer with us. And La Habrea was all too eager to assume her responsibilities, with nary a moment spared to mourn her. What love do I owe him now, when he offered not one drop of compassion then? Ah, I see. She is no longer with us. An expression to convey the end of a life. I have known only the public face of La Habrea. While he is lauded for his ability to maintain composure in the face of unnerving circumstances, I must admit that he oft comes across as cold. Apologies, but can we speak of something else? This topic isn't an easy one for me to discuss. Of course, there are more pressing matters at hand after all, namely how to deal with the Hesperus. We have yet to see the other warders. Judging from what we know, we can surmise that Hesperus has confined them somewhere beyond our grasp. And now he is aware of our presence, he will be preparing for our next encounter. We cannot expect to face him on equal footing, quite the opposite in fact. Every moment we spend chasing after the creations is another moment Hesperus can contrive another advantage for himself. The wisest course would be to find him first and foremost. He said that he has become one with the creations. Perhaps that means he is vulnerable to intermittent? In theory, that should be possible. However, is it enough merely to confine him, after all he has done? Indeed, I need to know why. I need to know what drove him to forsake everything he's worked for. Was it truly so he could serve his own master? To my mind, he's merely put Labrie's own work at risk, in trade for some nebulous power. Labrie is the chief keyboard of Pandemonium. How would throwing it into disarray win his favour? It doesn't make any sense. I share your curiosity, but we must consider what our enemy has at a disadvantage in every sense. What do you think? Should we seek to put him in fetters? Or would it be too dangerous to allow him quarter? If you fail to confine him, I can always strike him down. Daring as ever. I know not which trials you faced in your past, but to see you so certain is all the convincing I need. Very well, let us try Ericthion's plan. Thank you, Elita. I believe I can shed some light on the nature of our foe. When Hesperus spoke with us, I noticed he bore the telltale fangs of the Virabloculus, a beast which feeds off the ether of its prey. Likely that is the creation Hesperus merged with essence with. And we know all too well that he can change the environment around himself at will. The battle will not be an easy one, but I believe in our victory. He called himself a Hemethus, and claimed immortality. I know not how he discovered this dark art, but his actions do not bespeak a sound mind. That Hesperus possessed such a lust for power that he would resort to this. Clearly I misjudged him. I'd like nothing more than to strike him down myself, but seeing you work that arrogant grin off his face will taste just as sweet. I love the music. Killed me. Oh, the spikes on the edge. Healer? have symbols on them. If it's a sword, it's an angle. If it's a cape, it's a knockback. Careful not to step in the spikes this time, Elita. Always listen to me downstairs. Don't keep that. Take that one. Now, Themis, we end this here. Fools, I will not be put in chains. To think that I would fall before one such as you, did you as more than a mere nuisance. Despite your victory, you shall never have the knowledge you seek. The secrets of my transformation, the secrets of my deception, they shall return to the star with me. You're wasting your breath, Hesperos. We have the upper hand now. Surely you can see that. Yes. My repertoire is not exhausted yet. However, although I have failed, my end shall be on my terms. I remain loyal to my very last. Come what may, I die with dignity. Oh, he's a fun fella. How did your ambition lead you so astray? Hesperus, you were better than that. Your star shone more brightly than any other in Pandemonium. You had Lahabria's respect, his trust. What more did you seek? That you would forsake all that and sully your legacy besides? He became so blinded by his own desires that he lost sight of his duty. In the end, he lost everything, and his plans lie in tatters. I fail to see any dignity in that. Even so, I would have liked to know why he chose this path. Hesperus' infatuation with your father was his undoing. Perhaps he was so jealous that fate had chosen you and not him, to be Lahabria's son. So terrible did this jealousy become that he sought Verbrotian power, power that Lahabria would be unable to ignore. How does a pursuit for respect warp one's heart so? How does infatuation with one person turn into contempt for everyone else? I've never heard of such a thing. It happens, but that doesn't mean it's right. I see. I admit I cannot but find it vexing, but perhaps that signifies naught but my own capacity for bitterness. I do understand what it is to have a beacon to follow in dark times, a person you trust to guide you through, how it is to desperately wish their light would fall upon you again. But we have spent enough time assuming the intentions of the departed. There are a living to consider. We must find the other warders and round up the remaining creations forthwith. Of that, at least, we can be certain. I believe I can be of some help in that matter. The influence of Hesperus' magic is fading throughout Asphodelos. Now is the perfect opportunity to seize control of the facilities and restore things to their original state. Seize control? Can you really do that? What is this presence? Erinthius, what lies beyond that threshold? That's the passage which connects Aspelados to Abyssos. Why? Be on your guard, you two. Now that Aspelados is free of obstructions, I can more easily sense disturbances in the lower levels. Something stirs in Abyssos. A warding sigil? How? Let us return to the gates for now. I should like to appraise the situation from there. Needless to say, our investigation is far from over. Just when I had thought our work to be done, did this tragedy unfold all throughout Pandemonium? Although we have defeated Hesperos, it appears we have but scratched the surface of Pandemonium's troubles. My head is swimming with questions, but could this mean that Hesperos wasn't actually behind this? It's a stark possibility, yes. The root of this crisis may lie somewhere much deeper than even Abyssos. When we first encountered you, you said your memories of escape were vague, and that your senses were muddled. I believe this was more than the result of a panicked mind. You were made to feel this way by a powerful magical influence. It is possible that the same magic could have poisoned Hesperos' heart, twisting his affection for La Habre into a burning obsession. Then in his altered state, he was made an offer of power he could not refuse. Wait, are you suggesting that someone else turned Hesperos into that thing? If so, it stands to reason they wouldn't stop at him. Indeed, our mysterious mastermind does not lack for subjects for his experiments. For more potential Hemethiol. If what you're saying is true, then my colleagues are doomed to share the same fate as Hesperos. Do not lose heart yet, Erychnios. Hesperos challenged us alone, and that tells me the process of his creation was a long and taxing one. If he is the first Hemethios, then the rest of the Wardens are likely still alive. However, as much as I would like to hasten deeper into Pandemonium, the way forward is sealed off. We must focus our efforts on finding a way through. With the creation still having free reign of Asphodelos, that won't be easy. On the contrary, I yet retain control of these circles, and thus can wield intermittent magic within their halls at will. The creatures will pose no threat to us. Just like that? Then nothing's stopping us from returning order to Asphodelos. Just so. I shall require your expertise to keep the peace after the subjects have been returned to their confinement, however. You are Asphelodus's sole remaining warder, after all. Truth be told, I did not expect this investigation to become so involved. Of course, I would like to resolve matters here without resorting to outside help, but... Do you mean to send a report to Labria? 'Tis too soon to say. Let us first find a way to Bissos. It would be best to withhold our judgment until we've ascertained the whereabouts of the other warders and the identity of the party responsible for the disappearance. Agreed. Even so, if it means saving even a single life within Pandemonium, then I'm not above asking Labria for help should it come to that. Recent discoveries certainly paint Asperos' actions in a new light. The number of unknown elements in this investigation grows, and we must proceed forward with the utmost caution. To that end, Erythrios and I shall remain here for the time being. Much as I enjoy your company, I do not believe we shall be needing protection so long as we remain in Asphodelos. You should take this time to rest. Surely you are weary, and there may be more battles ahead of us. Themis's burden may grow heavier in your absence, but he's shown that he's more than capable to bear it. Still, I would help whatsoever I'm able. All we've achieved so far has been thanks to you two, and I mean to repay the debt I owe. I don't know what use I can be outside of placating the creatures, but I'll find a way. Nonsense! You owe us nothing. It was thanks to your knowledge of the magics which govern this place that we were able to come this far. Elsewise, we would have likely succumbed to the hippopotamus's assault. Each of us has arrived at a dire pass in several paths, but it is only by combining our respective expertise that we will reach the end and see Pandemonium saved. Thank you, Themis. Hesperus' words seem to have affected me more than I realise. Together we've come this far, and together we'll reach the end. I have no doubt we will. Even so, let us allow Elita her rest. Besides, you have someone awaiting to report your progress, yes? I dare say your story will be much more than they ever imagined. My friend would be very curious to hear what's occurred here. However, I fear that if I left Pandemonium, the walls protecting it would quickly deteriorate. I hope she does not mind assuming some of my duties in the meantime. Ah, so you don't serve the convocation? I suppose I needn't worry about you going behind our backs to curry favour with Labria. Welcome, Elita. Back from the past to none the worse for wear, I see. So, what did you find? So, there is evil afoot in Pandemonium, an already ominous place. I must say, mythic beasts and missing warders, truly we are fortunate to see you return to us in one piece. It appears the voice Elita heard from the crystal spoke the truth. As for who left it behind, and why, those are questions to be answered. Indeed, it could be someone who lived among the ancients, or it could be someone trying to avert a tragedy from the future. Much remains shrouded in mystery. Yet aeon by aeon we shall unveil that mystery, with the help of Elita, of course. By her actions was the fabric of the past reshaped, yet she returns to the same present she left. Which can only mean one thing, that her Pandemonium's crisis is but one of the countless building blocks of history upon which our present has been built. There is no telling what consequences would arise if we stop pursuing this matter now. Whatever plot is unraveling within Pandemonium, we must not let it reach its conclusion. If one of those creatures should escape, what ripples would carry forth to the future? They might wreak havoc upon the world of the ancients, and their despair would leave an indelible mark on history's pages. That despair would only feed the terrible beasts that arose during the final days. The first final days already had a drastic effect on the aeons that followed. If the scars that left it are made deeper, then we risk losing our present entirely. Whatever the cost, our connection with the future of Elpis must be preserved. I know I have asked much of you already, but can I count on you to continue your work in Pandemonium? Your tireless efforts are much appreciated. If there is aught we can do to ease your burden, you need only say the word. Speaking of which, might you return the crystal into our keeping? While we cannot accompany you to the past, perhaps something can be gained by researching it further. It's gone. Not there. Not in my hand. Not at all. Ah, it shines as splendidly as the day we met. We shall begin work right away, but I cannot promise any meaningful results for some time. And as matter in Elpis seem to be in a similar state, I must ask that you rest. But before that, allow me to make an introduction. As our research moves into its critical stage, I found it more suitable to recruit another assistant. Mylene is an expert in armaments from throughout history, be they from the far-flung past or made in the most foreign forges. Should you find aught of interest in your ventures, bring it here and she will be glad to offer her services. We know researchers in numerous fields would love to get their hands on artifacts from bygone eras, and would give you goods in return that should aid you in the trials ahead. Furthermore, if you ever wish to pursue the records of events you have reported here, Nejumi has been taking faithful and thorough notes. She is your complete disposal. I sense we have embarked upon something monumental, something that will dwarf all else I have accomplished in my many years of research. I can think of no greater honour, nor reassurance, than to have your capable assistance in this endeavour. If there is anything to be found that will contribute to your success, we shall find it. We shall not rest until we have unlocked the mysteries of this crystal, and you will be the first to know when we do so. would that we too could hear the words of the crystal and see the memories stored within. Our research would progress by leaps and bounds. Alas, sometimes the greatest discoveries are made under the most severe restrictions. We shall redouble our research efforts and not be perturbed by the obstacles we face. Elita, allow me to thank you personally for your contributions to our research, and your stories of the ancient creations have planted the seeds of many great theories. I cannot wait for them to flourish. Professor Claudian has asked me to write down detailed records of your investigation. If you wouldn't mind staying for a while, I would ask you to tell me more of your adventures in the past. Adventures that started with a mysterious crystal seemingly containing a message declaring a crisis in this pandemonium. Of course, Professor Claudian will eventually make a report, but we are deficient on concrete facts at present. To that end, I suppose a comprehensive catalogue of the beasts you encountered in the Asphodel circles would be a fine starting point. Yes, I require every gory detail, every hair-raising description. Nejimi, I brought volumes you asked for, but you are quite certain we need all of this just to research the crystals? Some of these habitats of aquatic life forms and myths of folklore of the phoenix, for example, have little bearing on the subject. In fact, many of these tomes seem to relate to the creatures in Pandemonium Elita spoke of. Surely we have better things to do with our time. Elita has already encountered and subdued them, so what use could further insight offer? On the contrary, Luciant, we would be remiss in our duty as academics not to take every opportunity to learn more of these subjects. To view the creatures of bygone times through the lens of modern science is a dream so few have the chance to achieve. Of course, I'll not deny a personal interest in the matter. As I thought, while we were enough relevant volumes for me to fulfill your request this once, if you wish me to state your appetite for knowledge again, might you do so in your own time? Shall we proceed? Tell me everything you remember, and please spare not a single detail. I don't easily frighten, you may be assured. We might start with your battle with this transformed warder. Erytheus, was it? I would also like to hear of the keywords and nature of this metamorphosis. Good. Thank you for this priceless information. While I'm disappointed I couldn't behold your foes with my own eyes, your stories have given me more than enough to write sufficiently thorough descriptions. Perhaps we should also include basic theories concerning the growth and behaviour of these creatures. It would give our catalogue some favour, wouldn't you agree? We could start with... I have it! Aquatic life forms have been observed to grow to sizes that are the orders of magnitude larger than their larval forms. In fact, it may not be so preposterous to posit that the hippocampus you encountered was merely the larval form of such a more massive and, dare I say, horrific entity. Now, don't look at me like I'm some mad magus. Breakthroughs have always been precipitated by wilder theories than that. As the professor always says, we mustn't let logic stand in the way of brilliance. Until proven one way or the other, every hypothesis is a valid one. There's nothing quite like the ambrosia of inspiration. Are we making records or creating fairy tales? So long as I make a note in the margins of my records indicating that a theory is unproven, we can let our imaginations run wild. Yes, I did say our. You don't need to be a researcher to have an idea that will leave a mark for generations. Elita, allow me to thank you personally for your contribution to our research. Your stories of the ancients' creations have planted the seeds of a great many theories, and I cannot wait for them to flourish. By Professor Claudian's order, our reports to the other research bodies have been somewhat scarce on concrete information. Even if we wanted to go further detail, there are too many unknown variables concerning how this crisis may affect our present. We only know for certain the crystal we found ties us to the past. We've had no luck eliciting further memories from its depths. We're at present gathering as many soul crystals and shards as we can to conduct two comparisons, but those experiments have yet to bear fruit. Of course, the fact that none but you can bear our Enigma's voice to begin with puts something of a damper on our potential progress. Yet even so, Professor Claudian is doing all within his power to move things forward. My worst one is a necklace. I'll stop there for that.